So, some more thoughts. What is culture and why is it important? As I've been working for Green Rain Studios, the organization here in Mumbai, as a manager, I've also been working on developing the culture. It's a relatively new organization, about 2 years old, and they um, are working on growing their culture, and I'm leading a lot of those efforts, and as well as writing the values and building the programs, including like review models and such based on those values. And it's also trickling down into other aspects, which will eventually lead to hopefully a holistic and positive and empowering company culture. So, why is that important? What is culture? Why is it important? Well, first thing first, I think culture is an amalgamation of ideas that are influencing the decisions and actions from beginning to end of a company. At least that in the business sense is what culture is. And it influences not necessarily just the individual, but groups, teams, and the overall organization and how it runs and functions in many ways. And it's not just limited to work hours or things like that, but I think actually influences um, every key aspect of what a company is, and that extends all the way up to any actually organization, all the way from the smallest startup to an entire nation. So why is that important apart from the obvious? Um, an effective culture and a positive culture has the ability to compound manifold because it's something non-tangible and conceptual. When it reaches a certain inflection point, it has the ability to accelerate the growth of a company by instilling within its individual parts, whether again that be an individual person, team, sub team, group, department, or such. It instills in them the ability to propel forward without a lot of extra churn and inefficiencies by being able to um, represent and recreate and then proactively build departments and areas and projects and even subdivisions without having to go through extra churn, reporting upwards, checking in upstream, and things like that, without having to essentially check in with the bosses every time. That's one major way in which it empowers every aspect of your company to move forward without you having to micromanage and supervise every aspect, and try and get something as close as you can. Now, if you create a culture that is um, if you create a culture that is very clearly defined in terms of what direction you want it to go in, and then you're able to put up programs and systems and and create a model around your company based on those things effectively, you also create what is actually sort of like magic stardust into your organization, where you create a sort of uniformity in philosophy. Philosophy and ideas are often very much at the heart of why we do what we do. And if you look at the golden circle of things of what, how, and why, it's at the central circle in there is of why is the key thing that's driving people's action, why they do it. Sometimes people don't know what their why is, but why you do what you do is such a major aspect of where your motivation is going, and how long it sustains, and what drives it. So if you're able to create something like that, you essentially in a way create a sort of like a cult, where people are looking at things um, for the same sort of aspects. An example would be, suppose you have an idea of thinking, instilling a culture of thinking more long term than short term. And people will look at a problem and try to solve it in a way where the solution sustains itself over a longer period of time than a shorter period of time. Everybody approaches things like that. The discussions around that problem are already targeted towards that specific goal. Things like that, as they move forward and then go from one point to another, they compound many fold, multiple fold, and can really take things to grow exponentially. Um, so the value add of culture is phenomenal, and that's something that I think there are millions of examples of in terms of successful companies, and wherever you may see success in any sort of organized body, um, culture I think ultimately comes at the heart of that thing. Even if there are tangible things that you can see that were done, actions that were taken that were effective, a lot of that will come from actually the intangible things that were floating around in the ether before that. So that's something that I just want to put out there as I work in on the company and try and think about and figure out why culture is important and how we want to grow it and lead it. Um, I've been thinking a lot about why it's important and then how to leverage it, and then what are the things to prioritize while growing it. And I wanted to share some of those insights with you guys. Let me know what you think. If you think that I'm way off or I'm on the money or somewhere in between, feel free to let me know. I just wanted to share where I'm at right now. I'm really enjoying this aspect of my job right now. So yeah, I'll be thrilled to have any conversations about this. Thanks, and hope you all have a good day.